Do you remember these 12 stores? Mervyn's. The thing I remember about Mervyn's was the store's name was close to my dad's name. Other than that, it was a big city store because we had to go to the capital city to see a Mervyn's. If they sold toys, their selection didn't impress me much. Montgomery Ward. This store to me was the equivalent of service merchandise without the strange checkout system. Monkey Ward's, as we often called it, was more of a place where my mum shopped. It was a little too grown up for my need for toys and such. K&B. K&B probably gained more popularity with me as I grew older because of their beer cooler. They always had a great selection of beer and it was cheap too. And if you were an underage drinker on a budget, price was important. Yeah, they checked IDs, sure they did. A&P. The A&P was the high-class grocery in the little town I grew up in. We always had Ann Page brand snacks and they had the first in-store coffee grinder that I ever saw. Now that I really think about it, the A&P wasn't any better than the Piggly Wiggly, it just had a more sophisticated name. tg&y. For some reason these stores always seemed to located next to a Winn-Dixie. Don't know if that was planned or not. I do know the tg&y store always had a nice toy department, which makes sense since I believe that's what. Service merchandise. This was a unique shopping experience for back in the day. You didn't really pull the merchandise from the shelf, you grabbed a ticket and took that to the checkout line and they pulled your merchandise from out of the back. I guess it was for loss prevention, but obviously they still managed to lose a lot. Service merchandise. This was a unique shopping experience for back in the day. You didn't really pull the merchandise from the shelf, you grabbed a ticket and took that to the checkout line and they pulled your merchandise from out of the back. I guess it was for loss prevention, but obviously they still managed to lose a lot. OTASCO. For the life of me I had no idea why they called this store what they called it. Then I learned that this is actually an acronym. It stands for Oklahoma Tire and Supply Company. To me, OTASCO meant Christmas presents. It's where we found a lot of toys for under the tree. Gibson's. This was our town's Walmart growing up. My mum always bought laundry stuff and soap at Gibson's because it was cheaper than at the A&P. See, we had head-to-head competition back in the day too. Circuit City. A visit to Circuit City for me was always about music and audio equipment. I was always buying speakers and amps and wire. I am not sure why the red Best Buy failed, but it certainly wasn't because of me. Western Auto. If you grew up in a small town, not only did you have a Western Auto, it was usually located on the main drag through town. This was our hardware store growing up. You could get lawnmower parts, garden equipment, bicycles, and tires there too. Woolco. My hometown wasn't large enough to have a Woolco. We had to drive 20 miles to the next town over to experience that. When I was little I thought this was the coolest store ever. It was better than a mall because it had 3 rows of toys in the toy department. Woolco was must-see shopping during Christmas. Woolworth. I think Woolworth stores were for towns that were too large for just a Woolco. We had to drive to our state's capital city if we wanted the Woolworths treatment and the lunch counter. The toy department wasn't nearly as impressive as the Woolco toy department, if you ask me.